Hello explorers, it's Darren here. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you are well and welcome to my studio apartment in Georgetown, Penang in Malaysia. If you want to see a little tour around my apartment, then please go and check the video out on my Facebook page, and also don't forget to like the page because I'm going to be doing lots of little exclusive videos just for those of you on Facebook. So today I wanted to continue to answer your questions. This is part 2 and there may possibly be a part 3 depending how I get through these questions today. There's a lot to get through, so let's get straight into the video. Queen Booker asks, have I purchased any souvenirs from my favourite places that I've visited so far? Sadly, the answer to that is no, because I simply don't have enough room in my bag for lots of souvenirs, which is a shame because I love buying tacky souvenirs. I've purchased lots of fridge magnets, lots of snow globes, and yes, unfortunately I just don't have the room. I've got a limit of 7 kilograms in my bag because I'm only taking it as cabin luggage, so I have to be really careful what I put in there. Chris Cook asks, what made me quit my job to travel? Great question. And it wasn't just quitting my job to travel, I also wanted to go self-employed and work on projects that I'm more passionate about, is the right word I think. I enjoyed the job I was doing, I enjoyed the people I worked with, but I just found myself counting down to early retirement. And when I realised I was doing that and just staring out the window and wishing I was somewhere else, then that's when I realised I needed to make some difficult decisions. Rizzy Clicks asks, what editing software do I use? I use Adobe Premiere Pro. I found that's probably the easiest one to get used to. It's very easy for just editing and adding audio, and that's all I really use it for, to be honest. I'm trying to learn new skills, and I'm spending quite a lot of time on YouTube actually, learning lots of tutorials. So yes, Adobe Premiere Pro is what I use. Tom Wild asks me 2 questions. Do I like roller coasters and how old am I? Well, I do love roller coasters and I haven't been on one for a long time. The last time I think it was Alton Towers. And the second question, how old I am? I'm 42 years old. I know, I'm old. A number of you asked me an absolutely fantastic question and it really got me thinking. And that's, where do I see myself in 5 years' time? And the honest answer to that is I do not have a clue. And that is what's so fantastic about the changes that I've made to my life. Because if you would have asked me that question 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said to you, going to work, coming home from work, going on a few holidays a year and just counting down to retirement. But now, I've no idea. I've no idea what's going to happen in the next 6 months, 12 months, and that's exciting. It's also quite scary. Oh Bro has asked me, what was my favourite subject at school? It would have to be information technology and probably PE stroke games. And I know, looking at my physique, you wouldn't believe that, but I used to play football regularly, I used to play a lot of sport, I used to go running a lot, and yes, unfortunately I don't do any of that anymore. Sully's Rap asks me, have my family and friends been watching my videos and what do they think of them? Yes, my family and friends have been watching them, a few of them have commented, and I think they enjoy the videos. I think it's a great way for me to keep in touch with them and show them what I'm getting up to and that I'm enjoying myself and that I'm safe, and yeah, I think it's a great way of keeping in touch with family and friends. JS123SK123, you've got the best username ever, asks me, would I be interested in doing filmmaking as a career? And you know something, if you'd have asked me that question a year ago, I would have said no to you. But I'm absolutely loving shooting the video, editing the video, and I want to improve my skills on that. I want to buy a better camera, I want to become a better storyteller. So yes, I would love to become a filmmaker. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be great to be able to travel around the world, share my experiences and do it all on video, because video is the future. Eric Tilda asks me, what am I missing the most? Good question. Obviously family and friends, got to say that. I am missing you, obviously. I think I think fish and chips and a cup of Yorkshire tea and just really trivial stuff like that I'm missing. Bart Gross, or Gross, I do apologise Bart if I've got your name wrong. I'm not very good at pronouncing names, as you've probably realised already. So 2 good questions. 1, am I going to be doing any sporting activities? And 2, how have I booked my accommodation? Well, sporting activities, definitely want to do more of that. Want to do some kayaking again, want to do some orienteering, want to do some canoeing. So yes, definitely up for sporting activities. And 2, about accommodation. I booked the first month, i.e. Thailand, before I set off on my trip, and the rest of it I'm booking as I go along. So my accommodation for Malaysia, I started to book it in Thailand, and my accommodation for Indonesia and Singapore, I'm kind of booking that now. So as I go along, and that's probably the best way of doing it, because ideally I want to look for accommodation that I can cancel and not have to pay any money. So good cancellation policies, and you can only really do that if you book it a little bit in advance. Lucy B has asked me a question about would I think about doing hitchhiking and backpacking. I suppose I am backpacking. I've got a backpack. I'm not staying in hostels because I don't feel comfortable staying in hostels. I like a bit of privacy. I'm a little bit unsociable some days I'm really sociable. So hostels don't really suit my personality. And with regard to hitchhiking, probably not. I'd have to be desperate to hitchhike, and I didn't have any money and needed to get to somewhere. But in some countries it's also illegal, so you'd have to be very careful where you hitchhiked as well. I know some people do it. I've known people that have travelled all over the world by hitchhiking, but it's not for me. Long Live Ox has asked me, is there anything on the trip that I wasn't able to do for any reason, and also asks me, is there anything that's been lousy or I've not enjoyed about the trip? I would say that probably everything that I've done so far I've wanted to do. I wish I could have hired a moped on Koh Tao, one of the islands in Thailand, because it would have been so easy to get around, but I think confidence stopped me from doing that. As you may be aware, I'm blind in my right eye, and I just didn't feel comfortable driving around on the streets. Whilst it wasn't particularly overly busy, there were a lot of other people on the roads, especially other moped users, and I just didn't feel comfortable. And to be honest, that meant that Koh Tao was probably one of the areas that I regret going to, because for a solo traveller there's very few transport options. Dan Gordon Design asks a fantastic question. I'm going to have to read it from my laptop because it's a long one. And he asks, after leaving your job of so many years and the comforts that you've been used to for so long, how do you manage not feeling overwhelmed? Because it's such a big lifestyle change, and also in terms of travelling, how do you not feel overwhelmed because you've got to organise the travel and all the pressures of travel? Great question. How do I not feel overwhelmed? I think the thing is, once you make that decision, and you've got to put a lot of thought, you've got to think about the advantages and disadvantages of making that big decision. Once you've made it, all you can do is take it a day at a time, and try not to get too stressed out about stuff. There's been a few things that have happened during this trip that have stressed me out, and you've just got to say to yourself, look, chill out, deal with it, and just get on with your day. And that's the best way of dealing with it, to be honest. I think the big big issue is really working out if the decision that you're making, if it's the right one, and you need to spend a lot of time doing that. It's not a decision that you can just make overnight, but sometimes you've just got to realise that life is short and take a day at a time and try to keep chilled and try to keep positive. Being positive is the number one tip I would give anybody when they make a big decision like this. Bram Piates, again, apologise if I've pronounced it wrong, but a good question. What am I going to do after the trip? I have no idea. I really haven't a clue. Again, as I mentioned in previous answers, I've got a business idea, I'm working on a business. If it's going to work or not, I just don't know right now. I'm going to have to wait and see. I really don't know. I'm going to have to go and probably live with my parents, with my mum or my dad, for a couple of weeks or a month until I just get myself sorted. What I would love to do, and I'm hoping this happens, is after the 6 months to carry on travelling, or if that doesn't happen, I would like to go and spend winter in a warm climate, maybe spend a month or 2 months with my family, and then go and spend 6 months somewhere warm and do some work and just chill out a bit, do some exploring. But I really don't know. Kobe Ramos asks me, who or what inspired me to travel around the world? I think the first thing is I realised, well, a long time ago, that the planet Earth is huge and it's there for exploring, and why should you stay in that little bubble and never explore or adventure and just see the world? And that's the main reason that I want to do this. I want to be 60 and 70 and 80 and think to myself, wow, I travelled all over the world, I had these fantastic experiences. It's these experiences and this travel is creating memories that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. So I suppose that's one inspiration. And the second is people like Michael Palin. I love watching his videos, his Sahara exploration, his travels around the world in 80 days, and he really does inspire me. Final question is by Jack Nicol, and he's asked a few questions. I'm just going to look at my laptop, and he asks me, first and foremost, how is the pizza in Thailand? It was okay, it was edible, let's put it like that. And he also asks, how long did you think about the trip before you pulled the trigger? Good question. I was initially going to say a year, but actually I've been thinking about it for 5 years, and I'm one of those people, or I was one of those people, who thinks about it a lot, says I'm going to do something but doesn't do it. I mentioned it to family members, especially my mum, talked to her a lot about it. She was very supportive, but kept changing my mind. And then the opportunity came for me to potentially leave, and it was, I would say, probably October 2013 when I decided that I was going to leave. Then I was still a little bit, not 100% sure, but I really want to do this. I'm really confident I can do this. I've got a good business idea, I want to travel the world. And it got to Christmas and I said to myself, look Darren, you've got to make this decision, you've got to do it, you've got to just make a decision in 2014, otherwise you're never going to do it. And I got to work in January and I said, look, I want to leave, and the rest is history. I had a year to kind of plan this trip, to plan my business ideas, to do a business plan, and to think about where I wanted to travel and make sure I had the budget to do that. Prior to that, for 2 years prior, I was saving up for a house deposit because I was also thinking about buying a house and getting on the property market in the UK. But as it got closer to me saving that deposit, I really realised it wasn't what I wanted to do, and travelling is what I wanted to do and what I still want to do. I don't regret that decision at all. I don't regret leaving my employer. And as also mentioned, I know there's a big entrepreneurial movement in Chiang Mai, I heard that they all work at Punspace. Have you thought about seeing what they're doing so that you could get ideas? Actually, that is one of the reasons why I went to Chiang Mai, because I heard a lot about people who are location independent, and the type of business that I've got, or the type of business that I'm working on, is very much location independent. I can be based anywhere in the world. It's based online. It's about training tourism businesses. That's what I want to do. And yes, I did speak to a few people. I got some really good feedback. So that's part 2. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to do part 3, and that's going to be all about solo travel. So I've got about half a dozen questions that I can answer on that. And yeah, thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Please leave any questions in the comments, and thank you for watching. I'll be back very, very soon with a new video. Don't forget to check me out on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.